Making money in the restaurant business is tough. Years ago, I read some stats put out by the National Restaurant Association that said a typical restaurant makes 5 to 8 cents on every dollar in sales. Who wants to work that hard for a nickel? My goal for the restaurant owners I work with in my group coaching program is 15 to 20%. Hey there, Restaurant Pro. This is Dave Scott Peters, restaurant expert, coach, and creator of the Restaurant Prosperity Formula. And I'm going to share with you 5 simple tips to boost your restaurant profit margins. Tip number 1, reducing food waste and managing inventory. Well, it starts off with implementing something called a waste tracker, where it's simply the date of the day and what time you wasted something, the item you wasted, how much you wasted, and what the cost was. We're going to have employee initials and manager initials in there too, but the whole idea is tracking those things that you waste, whether it was something that's spoiled, something that, went past its usable date, whether it's something that maybe died on the line and you need to throw it away, to dropping a burger, burning a pizza, you name it. Why we wasted the product. Now, what happens is it's a proactive tool. I'm not so concerned about the amount of money we wasted as much as identify why we had waste so I can make a change, whether I need to train someone, fire them, reposition them, buy less, the order 2 days earlier instead of having too much product on the shelf. So what it is a proactive management tool to help you reduce waste. That's product you use that you don't get any money for. Then when it comes to your inventory, we want to work on increasing your inventory turns. That's basically how many times we empty the shelves and refill them, dollar value, because we're never going to empty the shelves. So if I have $3,000 on the shelf, every time I use and replace $3,000 in product, that's a turn. Well, how do I get that number? Well, it requires you taking inventory, beginning inventory plus purchases minus ending gives us use. That use is what is literally what left the shelves. Use divided by sales gives you your cost of goods sold percentage. So food costs, bottled beer, draft beer, wine, liquor, you get the picture. Well, when it comes to food, my goal is taking that use, what left the shelves, divided by my average inventory, which is just simply the beginning and ending inventory divided by 2. That's going to give me my inventory turns. How many times did I replace that $3,000, use and replace that $3,000? In a calendar month, I'm trying to get that to 4 to 6 inventory turns. If I'm a breakfast place, as many as 8. That means I'm going to have enough food on the shelves that when that delivery shows up, I still have probably 3 days worth of food on my shelves. I'm never so down on inventory that I can't make it, but I don't have thousands upon thousands of dollars at risk to be stolen, wasted, spoiled on the shelves. I can pay my bills. Does that make sense? Tip number 2, you want to be streamlining your operations to increase your efficiencies. Well, there's any number of ways we can do this, but one of the things we can do is reduce the number of menu items that you sell. This can reduce the amount of product you have to buy and put on your shelves. This can make it that you don't need as highly skilled cooks, so training goes a lot better, and maybe I don't have to pay as much as far as somebody who's really, really skilled. I can have entry-level people to start off and they execute it. I can make sure that I can streamline my training for front of house because they have a lot less to learn. So reducing your menu items can make a big impact on your bottom line. You want to make sure your kitchen team, when they're working on the line, you've set up their stations that they just have to pivot in order to get anything they need. If I need bread, it's at a pivot. If I need tomatoes, it's at a pivot. If I need whatever ingredient, it's a pivot. Because on a busy day, like when you're crushing it, 3 steps in a station from one section to another can not only delay how your ticket times look, but that could equal miles on a busy shift. And more importantly, and this kind of does double duty in this tip and in the next, train, train, train. You need to train people what their job is, how to do it, how well it should be done, more importantly by when. The more you train, the more efficient your team becomes. The more in a kitchen, instead of being able to do 1 station at a time, when I've been trained, I can run maybe 2 or 3 stations on a slow night, giving me the ability to become more efficient, not have as many cooks on the line. So training is critical. Tip number 3, menu engineering to maximize your profitability. Menu engineering, just so we're clear, requires that you have accurate, up-to-date recipe costing cards. Without that, you can't do it. Now, without going into great depth of menu engineering, I'm just going to tell you this. If you have what each item costs you to make up to date, you know what you sell it for, and from your point of sale system, how many you sell of each, that's how you know what your ideal food cost should be, not some national average. But this is based on no waste, no theft, no spoilage, perfect restaurant, which does not exist. But I'm going to tell you right now, it puts you in a position where you look at it and go, hey, that's what my food cost should be. Now, you've probably heard me on this channel already talk about that. A typical restaurant runs 7 to 9 points above whatever that ideal number is. And a rock star chef or kitchen manager is 2 points. No matter what, it gives you the ability to say, hey, whatever my starting point is, when I menu engineer, following eye movement and boxing items and good descriptions and not orphaning prices and not creating price lists and all the things that go into the science of menu engineering, including pictures, I can redesign my menu the first time and only the first time through and reduce my food costs as many as 3 to 7 points. It's incredible power. If you ever wanted a reason why you need to start recipe costing cards today, I just gave it to you. Tip number 4, and this was where I said the training comes back in. I was a tip ahead of myself. Tip number 4, managing labor costs through scheduling and training. Now I'm just going to say again, train. All the same benefits that we talked about in tip number 2. But now let's talk a little bit about budgeting. Budgeting is incredibly important. If you've been following me for any length of time, you know that I say the 2 most important systems any restaurant should have are budgets and recipe costing cards. They're critical. They're proactive tools. But I'm going to tell you, without a budget, if you've been running a labor cost target, thinking you're running your managers to a specific target, you've been managing your labor incorrectly. Because with a budget, we're going to determine that we have certain months that we're, say, out of season. And we've got something called minimum staffing levels. My salaried managers get paid the same amount of money whether I'm busy or slow. And they chew up a lot of money when I'm slow. Well, all of a sudden, I've got something minimum staffing. Maybe I've got 1 cook on the line, 1 server, and 1 manager, and the labor cost is running me 35%. And as an owner, you're like, what the hell's going on here? When the answer is I need more sales. It's just seasonality. Whereas when I get into the height of season, I might be running a 20% labor cost because my managers as a percentage go smaller and I reach something called maximum efficiencies. I can't add another cook. There's no room. I got money, but there's no room. Can't another server, can't add another, right? You get the picture? I got 4 walls. That's all I can do. And so all of a sudden your labor cost goes down because your efficiency is high. Your customers are actually managing your efficiency. But the only way to truly know is to what? To have a budget. Now I teach my members a system called the Restaurant Payroll Guardian, which based on your budget target, I can tell each one of your managers not only how many dollars they have to spend by position, but how many hours they have next week to be on budget. So now with fancy scheduling software, we have templates and we just kind of drag and drop people in there based on, say, a $30,000 week, but we're really going to have a $28,000 week. We might figure out that we are 14 hours over in the kitchen, which means we need to stagger start. We need to cut some hours. And going into the week on budget versus bringing people in and praying we're busy gives you control of your checkbook. Because if you bring too many people in and you cut too late, it is too late. You've blown your labor budget. Really, really powerful. Now that Restaurant Payroll Guardian, again, in conjunction with scheduling software, allows you to do that comparison. So you do need the software, but you need the budget to go along with it. Tip number 5, you need to emphasize upselling and add-ons to increase your revenue. You've got a captive audience walks in your door and they've got a wallet in their back pocket or their purse. And your goal is to give them the best experience possible. And sometimes that means instead of giving them a rot gut well vodka, to sell them a Tito's instead. Instead of having them come in and not have an appetizer, that you've got some incredible shareable appetizer that would make their guest experience even better if they had it. And by doing so, we increase our revenues. Now, you've probably heard the old adage that goes along with it that sales cure all ills, and it's true. And the reason being is for every dollar above your break-even point, that means every dollar in, every dollar out pays all your bills, fixed and variable expenses. Well, every dollar after that break-even point, you've covered all your fixed expenses like rent maybe, or your SBA loan payment. As sales go up, you don't pay that again, but we still have our variable expenses like labor and cost of goods sold and marketing and so on. Well, every dollar above your break-even point is usually somewhere from a 20 to 30+% profit margin. The sales, as you increase sales past that break-even point, you're actually going to love the restaurant business and make a lot of money. And when it comes to upselling and creating additional revenue streams, I'm going to invite you to listen to an episode of my podcast, Restaurant Prosperity Formula, found on all the popular podcasting Services entitled How to Increase Restaurant Sales $250,000 in 1 year. I walk you through step by step by step, from upselling to features to catering, you name it. Walk through that step by step, and you will be able to, again, put yourself on a path to increase your sales by a minimum $250,000. Understand that the tips I just shared with you are only the beginning of your journey. Only the beginning of your journey to really making money in your restaurant. What would you do if you could make 15 to 20% on every dollar in sales in your restaurant? Because what I shared with you starts you on that path. Be sure to join me live every Friday at 8 a.m. Pacific time on YouTube, travel schedule permitting, where I'll get you pumped about the upcoming weekend, get you excited about crushing your goals and finding the motivation to be best you possible. Plus, I'll answer your burning questions live.